Welcome to Making Your Miles Count Production, an educational program to all Canadian lease owner-operators with your host, Robert Scaper.
Welcome to Making Your Miles Count podcast. Well, have you ever had one of those years, or maybe not a full year, but for sure a partial year? I've had one of those. As you've noticed, maybe not, that posted a podcast, I think since April or May, and primarily due to a number of things happening all at once. First of all, probably the biggest issue was my wife and I getting together and deciding to do 2 or 3 things, pretty major things in a year, so we would be very, very booked up. So I would classify that, first of all, as overcommitment, and then having a number of things all go wrong at the same time, or sequentially, I guess. That happens in people's lives. This is certainly not the first time in my life it's been like this, but probably it's been a good 25 years since I've had 20 years since I've had a major catastrophe, and it was not nearly as predictable, but I've been devastated more, I guess, but not in terms of time consumption. We've had family crisis, personal. Some of our kids went through some things that, oh my word, a complicated, unbelievable amount of things, and huge time consumption and changing of our things, of our plans and our events that we had moving, and with parents too. Specifically, my wife's father was rushed to the hospital, and he was given a couple of weeks to live, and so then everybody from the whole family flies in and says their goodbyes. And he's okay, and he kind of recovers a little bit, and looking okay, and he thinks, well, okay, fine. So everybody flies back. It took him 2.5 months before he did finally pass. Then when he did pass, 2 things. While he was passing, my wife had to keep care of her mother, and then when he did pass, she had to still keep care of her mother, and it was very stressful in many regards on there. Now, the family that she comes from, I don't want to say too much, but there was a crisis when the father did die, and the family came back. One sibling was threatening to be a very colossal pain in the butt, should we say, and it was we had to bring in people outside for the funeral to make sure that everything was going to go okay, and then it was okay. And then after the funeral, when they had a gathering, that's when everything blew up. So it went from one crisis to another crisis, and then lengthening it out, and then all sorts of things. And my wife and I, we committed to a renovation. And renovations, I don't know if anybody has ever lived through a renovation. I suppose in some regards, everybody, if you make it through, you make it through. But there's a part of you that dies through the whole thing. There are thousands of little choices to make. And just that is a lot of stress. And we went through that number of years. Maybe it was about 15 years ago. We had very strong control of it. My wife and I, we moved a house onto our property, and then we started gutting it and renovating it, and we would do that until we ran out of money. And then 4, 5, 6 months later, once we had some money, then we started renovating again. Luckily, we had a different place to live, but we did that for a total of 3 years. We were renovating our place, and so I know what renovations are, and I know how colossal they can become, and it was a lot to take on. We're still not even completely done the renovation, but it's definitely a livable situation. And then finally, I had an injury, a physical injury, where Okay, if you say it this way, I fell down a flight of stairs. The truth is, I fell down one step, the final step, thinking that it was a little bit longer down than I was, and I just stumbled a bit. And what happened was I fell on my right shoulder or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but I tore my rotator cuff. Again, should I say, because I did tear them both probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and I had surgery on my left one. It worked very, very well, but my right one wasn't torn as bad, and so I started lifting weights like crazy for about 3 years to see whether I could not have to have a surgery on it. And when was it? It was in March, I guess, March or April. I went to the specialist, and he said, well, you're right on the borderline. You may or may not, but you've done exceptionally well with everything and no pain, so everything's fine. Okay, fine. So then I did this stumble and tore the buzzard, and so I immediately called the doctor, and we rescheduled. We got MRIs, the whole thing, and probably in spring I'm supposed to be having surgery on my right shoulder. Having said about an injury, the difficult part is not actually injury as much as the constant pain. Depends what the injury, I guess, is, but in my case it's constant pain, which means you have about 30, 40, 50% less energy. You can't concentrate as long as you have in the past, or I have in the past. And my days, I have 3, 4, if I push it, maybe a 5-hour day or a 6-hour day, and then I'm wiped, absolutely wiped. Lay down, boom, I'm gone. And it affects a person. I went through the exact same thing, no, totally different. I had a running injury in my, what is it they call it, ITV band or whatever it is, that gave me lower back pain. And I was standing at my desk, this was about 30 years ago though, where I had back injury, and the pain was constant for 6 months. It's horrible. It changes a person. Pain is not a good thing to go through extensively over a long period of time. It's not fun at all. So, I mean, even right now, I'm sitting here. It is a little bit at the end of the day. I can prop up my shoulder, and the pain is it's noticeable, but that's about it. But if as soon as I stand up or spin around or out, I have constant pain, and it drains all your energy. We all have situations like that in our life. Well, maybe not all, but I've had, this is probably about my second or third time where I've really taken almost half a year or maybe even a year to recover from something. My shoulder surgery alone, I was in a sling for 6 months and stuff like that. So these times where you have way too much going on, and so once I realized what happened in, I think it was probably about April or May, I had to make a choice. What do I keep doing and what do I not? I guess in theory, what I could have done was I could have come out and said I'm not going to be available to do podcasts for a while, but I didn't know whether it was going to be a couple of weeks or maybe a month or something like this. But week after week after week, and then after a month, and after 2 months, and after 3 months, then I got a little bit maybe shy, embarrassed to actually come on and say all of the stuff that I was going through, and I didn't know when I was going to be back. But now pretty much all of the lion's share stuff is done. I can pretty much see myself through till spring and the next summer and stuff like that. I'm very, very fortunate. I have great employees, and going through changes in the company and stuff like that. There's a totally different situation, but adds all to it. But I'm a little bit more like a captain of a ship. as opposed to I'm not chief bottle. What do they call it? Chief cook and bottle washer. I don't do everything anymore. I can't do everything anymore. Our firm is far too large for that. So I come out of my captain's cabin, so to speak, and I say, what's this over here? What's that over there? Okay, fine. And I set the direction, and okay, we'll see you next Thursday or something like that. So the actual work is, I don't actually do the work as much as I give direction, and that's if the firm wasn't as large as it is, and I hadn't, I guess, to some degree prepared for something like this, oh boy, would I be in terrible shape. I can really, my heart goes out to individuals who have a medical situation or have a family crisis or something, and they're a driver. There's one driver drive it themselves, and suddenly you have to come off the road for however long. That affects a huge amount of people, like your whole family, all extended. Unless you have huge reserves or something like that, very difficult to do. I'm been unbelievably fortunate that been able to grow the firm to the point where, like I said, I'm only the captain. I can just point in the right direction and go back into my cabin. But I'm very fortunate that way. I appreciate my employees extremely much. I have great faith in them. Now that being said, I'm still around. I'm still doing some things, but I'm only around limited time. And I do want to get back into podcasting and just helping individuals and the like. But I want people. I'm not a big complainer. I don't like to complain. This is probably the only time I even made a list of the things that have gone wrong, so to speak. I'm very glass half full kind of a person. But sometimes, even when a person is a glass half full and sees the good in so much, you can be overwhelmed. And for the last probably 4 or 5 months, 4 months for sure, basically all I did was I get up and I say the only thing that I can really do is just not give up and just do whatever I can do in a day and let the chips fall where they may. So that's pretty much how I survived this summer. And even though I have a lot of pain and suffering for the next number of half month or maybe a half year, it is what it is. Can't really do much. I get a lot of adrenaline, a lot of enjoyment out of work, and I actually get a lot of enjoyment out of podcasts. Podcasts are actually a lot of fun. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm more of a talker than I am of anything else, but I really appreciate individuals who watch our podcasts, and I get a lot of good feedback. I'm touched. I don't want to be an influencer. To some degree, that's one of the reasons why I decided not to do a podcast, because I don't want people to follow me. Why somebody would be interested in what I ate for supper, that's a little loony to me. Nobody is worth that. I don't care what people eat. People shouldn't care what I eat. Realistically, I'm here to advise on business and finances and the trucking industry specifically, and that's something I want to help people with and give them a good sound advice, especially during this time. The trucking industry has been 3.5 years in recession. That is a long time. You take a look at the huge bankruptcies, huge financial crisis. Probably the biggest one is, there was Reimer YRC, had some clients on there. Pride Truck went, and that's a huge conglomerate. There's a couple of half of $2 billion dollars involved in there, Canada and the United States. And so realistically, there's a lot of things that affected when Pride sort of imploded, and they didn't completely implode. They're still operating in various things. They can significantly downsized, but it was a huge blow. to the trucking industry. We just got notification yesterday or the day before that Lightspeed went bankrupt, and there's actually 3 trustees or 3 banks or whatever it is. Lots of negatives on Lightspeed, and that's not a small company anymore. That was quite a few hundred power units and pieces of equipment. Apparently, what's this? National Bank of Canada are in for about $9 million. They stated that people in the office overstated accounts receivables by something like $9 million. Lots of equipment being left in the middle of nowhere. This is my 3rd recession. I was around 2000, 2001. I was around 2009, and now this one. And they're very, very similar. They're both similar and dissimilar, but this one is for sure the longest. The rates being there has been a time when the rates were effectively lower, and that was in 2009, but they didn't stay low that long. So this one being low for 3.5 years, it is absolutely devastating. Oftentimes you see one company buying out another company, and and realistically, that's not through opportunity as much as it is through, listen, it either goes bankrupt or you take it over and you downsize the whole thing and take what you want out of it. Nothing is worth nothing. It's useless. In Lightspeed's situation, Lightspeed is worth negative, so it was less valuable under any and all circumstances. It was actually a more devastating bankruptcy as a percentage than Pride was. Pride was, there was some value there that was able to be recovered. Lightspeed, you're going to see a lot of crying, even though the numbers are an absolute fraction of Pride. Realistically, when you have individuals not bringing back trailers, not bringing back trucks, stuff like this, and which one was it? I think it was in 2001. There was a lot of that going on. There was hundreds, thousands and thousands of trucks in farmers' fields, and they were stranded all over the place. And that was a terrible, terrible time for owner-operators, independent operators, is the 2000, 2001. Different circumstances completely, but in the end it was a recession that basically changed the outlook of the entire industry completely in that regards. But so everybody has bad times. I don't want to compare myself to the trucking industry, but when it comes to physical injuries and a whole bunch of family crises and stuff like this, everybody gets it. Not everybody, but there are some difficult times for everybody. And the biggest advice, I can't even remember who told me this. You just get up and do the best you can for the day, and one day at a time, eventually you overcome. And you can't. There are some things disappear, and you downside. There's a lot of things I could have spoken about in podcasts for this summer, but I missed out on an awful lot. But realistically, if I'd be put into the exact same situation, I would do the exact same thing again, and and eventually we'll be able to recover with everything if we just persevere. Probably that's the biggest thing, and that's pretty much. Actually, I just found out 2 days ago. No, not 2 days ago. Oh, this was today. It was just today. I just had interviewed a driver who came from another carrier that was shut down by, I can't remember. I think CRA seized everything, and so that's another company. It's a relatively small company, but so there's lots of difficult things happening in the industry, and probably will be for quite some time yet. And but you know what? Regroup, collect all of your marbles wherever they may be, put them back in your pocket, and get up and continue on. I had a few people give up their truck this summer. They had been driving a year and a half with a brand new truck, and they just lost hope. I had to call them up and say, listen, I don't know what your expectations are, but just because, for instance, you're incorporated doesn't mean that they can't come after your home and your all of whatever assets you have. And it was sad, but they didn't care. They had lost hope in their heart somewhere, and those are absolute losses. And if they could have renegotiated, they could have made a 10-year failure down to maybe a 4 or 5 year failure, but they couldn't overcome the constant exposure to their failure. I guess they went the bankruptcy route, or they will go the bankruptcy route once all of the paperwork is through, and it's going to be much more costly for them. But hope is a very big thing in a person's life, and you got to do whatever it takes sometimes just to, you know what, I'm not going to give up, and I'll always have hope. Sometimes you have to cut the line and lose something somewhere, but eventually in life, the headwinds will turn around, and you'll have the wind on your back again. Anyway, I figured I'd just say this as a little bit of a tell you where I've been this summer, as well as what's happening around the industry a little bit. All right. Have a good trip. Subscribing to this channel provides you regular access to professional advice on independent operators. If you want to support us, like, share, and turn on that notification.
Thanks for stopping by Making Your Miles Count. For further Making Your Miles Count productions, call us at 877-987-9787 or download us at makingyourmilescount.com.